Welcome to Vigorous LEDs, not PEDs. Today we're going to discuss libido-enhancing drugs, not performance-enhancing drugs. So the PED can stand for positive erectile dysfunction. If you're suffering from that, let's go over several LEDs that might help you along your journey. Let's start with the cyclic guanosine monophosphate specific phosphodiesterase type 5 inhibitors. Now that's a mouthful, so let's just make it easy and abbreviate both terms to cGMP and PDA5. Now we're going to go over the PDA5 inhibitors specifically. There are three drugs that fall into this category. The first and the most well-known is sildenafil, going by the brand name Viagra. The second one is a little bit lesser known and not as commonly used in the bodybuilding or fitness industry. It's called vardenafil or Levitra. And the third and most commonly used PDA5 inhibitor that's very popular amongst bodybuilders and fitness enthusiasts is tadalafil, going by the brand name Cialis. Because tadalafil also acts as a performance-enhancing drug. It not only improves the erection quality, but it also gives you a better pump. And since its duration of action is so much longer compared to Viagra or Levitra, with a half-life of 36 hours, it basically increases nutrient delivery, pumps, and the potential for erections once stimulated for a much longer period of time. But when you look at the onset of action and the half-lives of these PDA5 inhibitors, you'll see that it varies widely between the different medications. Viagra usually starts working within 20 to 30 minutes and it has a half-life of 2 hours. Levitra takes about an hour to work, an hour to kick in, and has a half-life of 6 to 8 hours. And Cialis takes even longer, takes maybe 1 hour, 2 hours before you notice a dramatic effect in erection quality, but it has a half-life of 36 hours. Now, Cialis was developed as a blood pressure medication because inhibiting PDA5 not only increases nitric oxide content within the penis, improving the erection, it also reduces blood pressure. So Cialis was originally developed as a blood pressure medication, but because it has a 36-hour half-life, the effect compounds, making it very difficult to dose for the general public. So it was never approved for blood pressure purposes, blood pressure management purposes, and it's basically used off-label for that purpose. And that's why bodybuilders tend to prefer Cialis over the other PDA5 inhibitors, because it's a multi-purpose medication. Not only does it help to regulate blood pressure, especially on cycle if we're using compounds that are known to increase blood pressure. Now, most of the anabolic steroids that bodybuilders tend to take already enhance libido sufficiently by themselves, so Cialis would be a suitable add-on, unless the bodybuilder didn't really adjust their sex hormones and their neurosteroid dosages correctly. Now this hormone balance is completely off. I already made a video about how to restore that. I'll put up a card right here so you can watch that if you're suffering from libido issues while you're on cycle because your sex hormones and your neurosteroids are completely off. I already discussed that in the previous video. So let's say your libido is amazing and it's good on cycle, then Cialis is a suitable add-on and bring that libido to the next level. Now keep in mind that PDA5 inhibitors aren't actual libido-enhancing drugs. They improve erection quality and might reduce or prevent erectile dysfunction on cycle. But if the libido is not there, the hormone balance is completely off, or you've been in a chronic caloric deficit for a long time, which is also known to reduce libido, you've lost the respect for your partner, or you no longer find her or him attractive. Again, there's many things that contribute to libido. These PDA5 inhibitors are just add-ons, and if you don't have good libido to begin with, these drugs are not going to increase or magically boost libido. Now, there's two other compounds that are known to do that. We'll discuss that a little bit later. That's Melanotan-2 and PT-141. That's another peptide, which acts a little bit similarly as Melanotan-2. But we'll discuss that later in the video. So let's throw in a little bit of basic human biology so you guys understand how these PDA5 inhibitors work. When a man is sexually aroused, nitric oxide enters the blood and increases the production of cyclic guanosine monophosphate within the penis. Now, cGMP helps to dilate and relax the blood vessels. As more and more blood enters the penis, it slowly starts to constrict the blood vessels surrounding it, which prevents blood from leaving the penis, resulting in an erection. So this process is regulated by cGMP, but there's an enzyme called CMG-specific phosphodiesterase type 5, which breaks down cGMP and reduces the penis to its normal flaccid state. PDA5 inhibitors prevent these enzymes from working, and that increases cyclic guanosine monophosphate concentration within the penis, prolonging the erection. Now, how long that stays prolonged kind of depends on the dose of the PDA5 inhibitor and how long the half-life is. So a reasonably low dose of 5 milligrams of tadalafil over 36 hours is not going to increase the erection quality that much compared to 80 milligrams or 100 milligrams of Viagra, which is a very short half-life and a very fast onset of action. You should have a solid erection within 20 to 30 minutes on Viagra. But if you're only using 5 milligrams of Cialis for blood pressure management and to increase pumps during your workout, there's no real immediate effect regarding your erection quality. There will be no erection unless properly stimulated. Then nitric oxide content of the penis goes up, cGMP production increases and increases blood flow to the penis. And the little bit of tadalafil that you're using at that moment in time prevents the breakdown of cGMP because it inhibits the PDA5 enzymes. Okay, I hope that solves the biology aspect of this. So we can look at it this way. Cialis is Lantus, long-acting insulin, and Viagra is Humalog, short-acting insulin. And for the guys that are freaks that have been combining Lantus, long-acting insulin, to support their basal insulin production, and they get a little bit of Humalog post-workout to improve recovery further compared to what the Lantus is already providing, a low dose of Cialis with intermittent use of a low dose of Viagra to prevent the side effects which are associated with higher dosages of Viagra. Let's say at 100 milligrams you get stuffy nose and you get this flushing and all that stuff. Again, we're using these LEDs to make intercourse more enjoyable, and it shouldn't be a moment where you're constantly battling side effects, which is detracting from your experience. So I'm sure people have noticed this by overdoing the Viagra or overdoing the Cialis or Levitra for that matter. I haven't met so many people that use Levitra, mostly Viagra or Cialis. But what I noticed with myself is that if I use a low dose of tadalafil, 5 milligrams per day, with the occasional recreational low-dose Viagra, let's say 25 milligrams around 30 minutes before getting started. Again, Viagra dosing is a little bit more crucial and time-sensitive compared to Cialis. And I wanted to make an analogy here with tunnel boring machines or intercontinental ballistic missiles, but I'll just leave it up to you guys' imagination, okay? Now, I know that some people like to use cabergoline to reduce the refractory period in between erections and orgasms. When you have an orgasm, prolactin levels generally go up, preventing an additional erection or at least making it more difficult to have an additional erection and consecutive orgasms. But when you use cabergoline, prolactin levels, of course, go down significantly, which turns you almost into a porn star, having erections, orgasms, and very fast another erection and perhaps another orgasm if everything is going to plan. Especially when cabergoline is combined with a PDA5 inhibitor, and it's certainly not unheard of, and I've combined that myself as well, a low dose of Cialis, 5 milligrams per day, plus let's say half a milligram of cabergoline because you're using nandrolone. So half a milligram cabergoline twice per week, that's a conservative dose to prevent progestogenic and prolactin activity when you're using nandrolone or trenbolone. And in that case, most people notice that their refractory rate reduces significantly. The Cialis is promoting the erection quality and keeping them sustained for a longer period of time. And the trenbolone, due to its progestogenic activity, is increasing libido significantly as well. And nandrolone is known to reduce libido a little bit, probably because it raises estrogen levels. But trenbolone isn't known to increase estrogen concentrations, and in some cases might actually reduce aromatization of testosterone into estrogen. It really depends on what other compounds you're using as well. It's always a bit hard to pinpoint if that's the trenbolone, the masterone, the primabole, the winstrol, whatever DHT-based compounds you combine with trenbolone. I know, contest prep, right? So let's say on the trenbolone, your libido is increased due to its progestogenic nature. You're using cabergoline to prevent any prolactin surge, and you're using tadalafil, Cialis to control the blood pressure, because again, trenbolone is known to increase blood pressure levels. This is almost a porn star stack, and I'm sure you guys can vouch for it. Let me know in the comment section if you use this golden triangle of Libido, trenbolone, tadalafil, and cabergoline together. I'm sure that everybody that has used this combination can vouch that the libido and the performance is legendary. And that's why it's very hard to come off this protocol, because it's definitely not sustainable. You can't stay on trenbolone forever, and you certainly can't stay on cabergoline forever. But I feel that tadalafil, Cialis, is reasonably safe, and I recommend that to a lot of guys at a low dose for a longer period of time, because it helps with so many other aspects besides the libido boost. So cabergoline, I'm not really a big fan because of the dopamine push and the withdrawals that some people get, because it raises dopamine concentration so much in the brain that some people get withdrawals when they go off cabergoline. And it's also been linked to left ventricle heart enlargement. So again, I don't think it's a suitable medication or a suitable LED to improve libido and refractory rate. If you want to reduce your prolactin levels, look into vitamin B6 P5P. It's potent enough to keep your prolactin levels within the refractory period or libido favorable range, unless you're using progestogenic steroids or smoke weed frequently or using kratom. All those things are known to increase prolactin. And cabergoline isn't always the answer to resolve that. Either reduce the progestogenic steroids, stop smoking so much weed, get off the kratom, and look somewhere else to improve your libido. And perhaps consider using 200 to 300 milligrams of vitamin B6 P5P instead. I will vouch for that it works, especially on the protocol I discussed earlier, a low dose of Cialis, an intermittent use of a low dose of Viagra. The refractory period falls within the window of time that Viagra is active. So you should be able to get 2 or 3, if you're lucky, sessions in within that window of time that Viagra is active. Okay, let's move on to the peptides, namely Melanotan-2 or PT-141, which is also known as Vyleesi, not Cialis, but that's known to increase libido too, or at least for me, and some of the people that I know. Vyleesi is actually FDA approved since 2019. I think the chemical name is called bromelanotan, so it's very similar to Melanotan-2. Both of these peptides were developed to increase sexual desires in women, most notably postmenopausal women, where sexual desire usually declines as their hormone production declines. Now, uniquely to Melanotan-2, and the main reason why most people in the fitness community end up using it, is that it also increases pigmentation. So that's the main reason why it's used. It's a non-selective agonist of the melanocortin receptors, and it mostly acts on the melanocortin 1, 3, 4, and 5 receptors. The pigmentation comes from melanocortin receptor 1, while the sexual increases come from melanocortin receptor 3 and 4. PT-141 works in a similar way as melanotan. It acts primarily on the melanocortin receptors type 3 and 4, but it doesn't work on the melanocortin receptors type 1. So with PT-141, you don't get the pigmentation that you see with Melanotan-2. So I'll give you guys a second to guess which of these two peptides I prefer to use. Very smart, very observant, and the glutathione, all the glutathione that I'm taking certainly isn't helping. I prefer PT-141 over Melanotan-2, even though if I wanted to get a proper tan, of course I would switch to Melanotan-2 any day of the week. The main reason why I use PT-141 recreationally is because Melanotan-2 makes me nauseous. And even though PT-141 induces a little bit of nausea, and again, it's dose dependent, so let's compare that milligram for milligram. Let's say you're using half a milligram of PT-141 and half a milligram of Melanotan-2 to improve libido and increase sexual desire. I feel that you get less side effects with PT-141, even though the erection quality is probably comparable. And while we're on the subject of dosing, generic PT-141 usually comes in 10 milligram vials. This is just the same amount you would normally get for Melanotan-2. But pharmaceutical-grade Vyleesi, containing bromelanotan, comes in a single-dose serving of 1.75 milligrams, attempted for a single administration, which honestly is way too much. your libido will be way too high with 1.75 milligrams of PT-141, regardless if it's pharmaceutical grade or generic. And the sexual desire and libido boosting effects you get from that dose, you probably won't be able to do anything else that day, especially if your partner took a comparable dose of PT-141. I just hope you have a good mattress. Let's just put it that way. So for the guys that are interested in using PT-141 or Vyleesi as a libido enhancing drug, keep the dosing moderate, conservative, 0.5 milligram or 1/3. The recommended dose of the pharmaceutical grade Vyleesi is more than enough. You can easily space out this single recommended dose of 1.75 milligrams of Melanotan-2 out over 3 servings, resulting in 0.67 milligrams. And now you get to enjoy this libido-enhancing drug for several days in a row based on this single recommended dose of administration. So you just space it out. You don't need 1.75 milligrams per time. And if you're going with generic PT-141, dosing isn't really an issue. You can simply draw 0.5 milligram from a 10 milligram vial, and that's more than enough to boost libido. Trust me. Especially if you're already using a low dose of Cialis and perhaps a low dose of Viagra on top. Now, the timing of PT-141, you can do that alongside Viagra, because PT-141, of course, increases libido, and Viagra gives you a short window of time where you get to perform at maximum capacity. Let's just put it that way. Now, if you're also lowering your prolactin levels with either vitamin B6, P5P, or cabergoline, the timing of PT-141 and Viagra, the timing of Cialis is not that important, again, because it has a very long acting half-life. The timing of PT-141 and Viagra, if you do that around the same time, considering that it's active for about 2 to 3 hours, it should give you a solid 3 to 4 sessions, assuming your partner can keep up with that. And again, if your mattress is able to handle the pounding. And let's just wrap it up right there. I think that gives everybody enough incentive to optimize their libido using either a PDA5 inhibitor, which again, it's not actually going to give you libido. It's simply going to improve your erection quality and the duration of your erections. And the melanocortin receptor peptides actually increase sexual desire and libido. And if you keep the dosage moderate, conservative, there should be no nausea preventing you from performing. And again, guys, don't increase your dopamine concentrations that much. Otherwise, you turn the whole experience into a marathon. And that certainly isn't for everybody. Okay, let's wrap this up. I think that pretty much covers all the libido-enhancing drugs that are commonly used by bodybuilders and fitness enthusiasts. If you're looking for the most comprehensive ebooks regarding bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find those on my website, VigorousSteve.com/shop. Currently, I have 5 ebooks published. PCT, hormone replacement and cruising and bridging protocols, off-season cycles with bioidentical hormones, an ebook about estrogen, progesterone, and prolactin, another ebook about growth hormone and IGF-1. I'm currently writing an ebook about insulin and everything that goes along with it. They'll be out shortly. Stay tuned for that. It'll be the 6th ebook that I'll be releasing on my website. I'll announce that on Instagram when it's ready for purchase. If you're looking for one of my services, you can find the rates for coaching, consultations, or personalized advice by email on my website as well. You can contact me there, or you can email me directly at vigorous.steve@gmail.com. If you made it to the end of the video, please leave me a like on your way out. And if you're not subscribed, now would be a good time to do so, because I post multiple videos about bodybuilding and everything that goes along with it multiple times per week. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.